There we go. So good morning, everybody. Glad to see you on this holiday, post-holiday day. What can I say? And we are going to talk about this week's Parsha, which is Parsha Balak. But before we do that, we're going to take a couple of minutes to simply get here and to settle. So I invite you all to find a comfortable seat. And we'll just take a couple of breaths together. Inhaling and exhaling. And my suggestion is that we inhale through our noses and exhale through an open mouth and really make some sounds. Sigh with that exhale. Being able to become fully present, leaving behind all of the activity from this morning, be it appointments or rounding up stray chickens or whatever. So, Balak. This Parsha includes the story of the prophet Balaam, who was hired by King Balak to curse the Israelites. On his way to meet up with King Balaam, Balak has three interesting encounters involving his donkey, and the donkey ends up speaking to him. When when Balaam meets up with Balak, Balak ends up kind of frustrated because he keeps bringing Balaam to different views of the Israelite encampment, and Balaam speaks God's words of blessing rather than the curses that Balak wants. So for me, this is really a story about heightening awareness, about seeing and noticing. It's about waking up to what is, as opposed to what is expected. So, chapter 22, verse 22 says in part, an angel of Yud-He Vav-He took a position in his way, that's in the way of the donkey and Balaam, as an adversary. So 3 times in verses 23, 25, and 27, we are told that Balaam's donkey was able to see this angel that was in the path, and Balaam himself could not see this angel. So each time the donkey saw the angel, he stopped or moved off to the side. Balaam became furious and beat the donkey. So this episode really points to something that we're all really well aware of in our own lives, but may not have the particular phrase for it. So the phrase I came upon is situational blindness. The situational blindness is when we don't see something that either we don't want to see or we're not expecting to see, so we just simply don't notice it. So I'm sure you can all think of times when you were surprised to see something at a place that you have been many times, and this object, whatever it was always there, but you had not noticed it. An example of this is you get in the car to drive a familiar route and suddenly you're at the place that you were going with no awareness of what you passed on the way. I was very aware of this at the beginning of the pandemic when I was going out walking every day and looking for something to take a photograph of. I was doing a daily photography thing, and I was really pushing myself to see something that was either pretty or uplifting. And I was shocked at walking through neighborhoods that I have walked through for more than 10 years and seeing things that I had never seen before. Little architectural pieces on homes and the shape of a particular tree. So that's kind of situational blindness. So during his encounter with the angel and the donkey, Balaam's frustration and anger, and maybe even despair, which is the word of the day, I think, over his inability to imagine a way forward, led him to strike out against his very faithful and trusted animal that had been with him for many, many years. Once he opened his eyes and was able to see the angel, his vision began to clear and he could see what was really happening in the moment. And he managed differently. When he meets up with Balak, Balaam is taken to 3 different vantage points to look at the Israelite encampment and to curse them. And instead of cursing, Balaam speaks the words that God put in his mouth, and they are words of blessing. By this time, Balaam is fully awake. His vision is perfectly clear. That angry, fear-based energy that generated the expletives and the violence that he had directed to his donkey, which, by the way, is energy which could have fueled curses toward the Israelites, instead has been transformed and channeled into blessings. At the 4th vantage point that Balak takes Balaam to, Balaam speaks from his own heart. And he says, chapter 24, verse 5, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. Rabbi Mark Margolius points out that this opens each Jewish morning prayer service, that it's to be chanted specifically in the morning, the part of the day which invites us not only to rouse ourselves physically from slumber, but to uncover our eyes and grow in awareness throughout the day. So this parsha describes a process of opening our eyes more fully, seeing more deeply, more clearly, really noticing. Each of us has moments of hopelessness when, like Balaam, we can't envision a way forward. That might be particularly prevalent right now. In such moments, we may instinctively strike out against others, even people we love, sometimes even against ourselves. Our mindfulness practice calls us to begin with noticing and investigating our thoughts, emotions, and sensations with gentle curiosity. We ask ourselves, what thoughts come up when I feel hopeless and despairing? What emotions am I feeling? And most importantly, where do I experience this in my body? And then we apply compassion to ourselves, right wherever we are, with our thoughts and emotions and bodily sensations, with whatever we're feeling and noticing. And in that place, we can maybe use the energy generated by our despair to invite hope in. Maybe we can call a trusted friend with whom we can share our thoughts and feelings. Or maybe go out into nature. Or maybe read inspirational literature. Or maybe say a prayer for God to be with us. Or maybe take an action, even a really small one, against an injustice. So I think it's really important to remember that Balaam saw a community as it can be. People building a society of mutual interdependence, of trust, of tents facing each other. A community where each person is treated with dignity. So we'll move into our quiet meditation now. And I encourage you to really pay attention to what's happening in your body. And if you are familiar with the Matovu chant, you may want to repeat it to yourself. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. So taking your posture, sitting with an erect spine, remembering Jacob's ladder, planted firmly in the ground and reaching all the way up to the heavens. Imagine that's your spine. Allowing yourself to feel supported wherever it is that you're sitting. Maybe tucking your chin a little so that the back of your neck really is an extension of your spine, as it should be. So there's no strain. And breathing. Noticing your inhale. Noticing your exhale. Noticing where you feel your breath most prominently in your body. So I invite you to begin to deepen your breath. Slowly and gently begin to bring your attention outward. I'm going to share with you a poetic reflection on Matovu entitled Your Dwelling Place, and it is by Aldin Solove. When I pray, when I quiet my mind and open my heart, I become a priest, priestess in the house of God. God, I love your house, your habitation, the dwelling place of your glory. Let me serve you with my hands, with the toil of healing the world, with the labor of kindness and compassion. And I will become your abode of love and charity, of thanksgiving and peace, doing your will in joy, rejoicing in your work. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, Thy dwelling place is always real. Let my life become a temple, a sanctuary of praise and service, and you will dwell in me. So I apologize for the very rude interruption of my very protective pooch, who does not like having workmen in the house. But she has settled down.